In this video, I just want to touch on the ideas of how you can capture somebody's attention without having to elevate your energy, become more intense, or try to get frustrated only to get their attention through your frustration or annoyance. So a few simple ways, and we're going to use the conversation outline essentially. So talking about the space. When you start talking about the space that people are around, the brain is going to start looking around at those spaces, because when you identify something like there's a wedge, the brain wants to look to see if that's true. And so there's something called negative bias. If you intentionally are wrong, somebody's bound to correct you, and that is gaining somebody's attention. So if you look at an event, maybe you go over to bars and you say, okay, we're on trampolines right now, somebody's bound to correct you. That's getting their attention. Merely by intentionally being wrong, now you're going to get corrected. Boom, you have their attention. So you go, we're over on trampolines now. And somebody goes, these aren't trampolines, this is bars. And you go, oh, bars, fantastic. How many are there? Question. You already got them engaged, you hook them. How many bars do you see? And they're like, 4. Oh, okay, so there's 4 bars. How many of you are there? Another question. Now they're going to be looking around, driving behavior. So here we're getting the attention, but we also got behavior now because they're moving around, having to look and pivot to get you the answer. So they're like, oh, there's 8 of us, or there's 6 of us. And then it's like, what does that mean? Forcing them to solve the problem means their brain has to put the power of thinking all in the direction you want it to go. So you give them a problem to solve, a very simple problem to solve that can be solved quickly. If a problem can be solved quickly, now you have another layer of attention, which is called competition. When people are competitive, they want to get there faster than somebody else. That is needing more attention. And so when you have simple problems to solve that anyone can solve in the group, pretty soon you create a natural competition between the students, because they want to be the first person to answer, because they want to get the right answer, they want to get there first. And so instead of, you might run into these problems where students are always trying to be first in line, just natural, it almost seems like you don't even have to try, there's always somebody trying to be first in line. Well, use that, leverage it by saying, here's simple problems to solve, you could be the first person answering it. And so that's just using, again, questions, labeling information. We haven't even talked about the flow. Now when you talk about the flow, you could talk about all the safety problems. Okay? You could say, okay, we're going in this order of clockwise or whatever it is, and someone's like, I don't know what clockwise is, and then you explain the direction of flow. You say, but what would happen if I stopped here and the person behind me kept moving? They'd be like, oh, they'd probably run into you. Right, and do we want that to happen? And so now flow has all these problems that can be discussed, and our brain has a negative bias. So anytime you talk about something that's basically of risk or of danger, your brain wants to know about it, because your brain doesn't want you to get hurt. So now you point out all the areas of conflict or the areas of risk or danger, and you're going to get more people's attention, because they're like, well, I don't want to get hit by somebody, because that's just a natural response to danger and risk. As you go into the skills, well, you talk about the skills in such a way that they're really easy, but then you do something that's relatively difficult. Or you talk about them in a way that they're really hard, like I don't think anybody could do this, and then it's super simple. Again, you're contrasting, you're using the same idea earlier where you're intentionally wrong, but now you're contrasting effort to skill, and then they're correcting you by going, that's not hard, I could totally do that. Well, you have their attention now. And so you're just contrasting, just merely the skills. Then you go over into the type of effort somebody wants to do, that you want out of them. And you want to get their attention with the effort. Well, the effort is either going to be really hard, and you're going to get super tired, and you're going to want to give up, and you're going to want to quit, and you're never going to want to come back here again. It's going to be the worst experience you ever had. And it sounds so ridiculous that anyone would put somebody through that, but they start not believing you, but they're following your journey. Or the effort is like, this is going to take a lot of focus. Like if you're not paying attention, you probably won't even pass, because you're looking for quality. And so now you're really narrowing in on the emotion that they're going to be feeling in the type of effort. And it can be totally inflated. It doesn't have to be grounded in reality, but it draws people's attention into the story, like thinking about themselves like, am I going to really be that tired? Or am I going to really have to focus that hard? Maybe I just don't have what it takes. But it sets them up for a level for you to become their cheerleader and believe in them, which then drives their attention again. Because if somebody thinks, man, I don't know if I can do this, now you have a reason to encourage them, and then you're getting their attention. because they have a little bit of self-doubt. And you don't want to crush people. But the other side, you're going to have the overconfident person who's going to be like, I got this. I'm not going to get tired. I never get tired. Or you have the people who go like, I never sweat, type of thing. And so then they're totally ready to take on the challenge. Again, you have their attention. Then you have how you're measuring it. And I know the word measurement might seem more like it's a reward, but really a reward is merely a mile marker along the way of the journey. And so by thinking about more, it's like how we're measuring success is by giving out points. When you get points, now we know, cha-ching, you did it, okay? So by what are you going to give out, it's going to draw in attention. Because if you say, well, if you do this thing, you're only going to get 1 point, but if you do it this way, you could get 5. And if you did it this way, you could get 10. Well, 10 sounds way better than 1. And so somebody's checked out and they hear 1 point, no big deal, and then they hear 5 and some kids make some sound and they hear the 10. It's like, wait, what's happening? What am I missing? Why is everyone getting more excited? As the people around me get more excited, I want to pay attention to why they're excited. Because again, I'm naturally driven to understand that or naturally driven to basically look for any sort of danger or any sort of problem. And so excitement is also very close to anxiety and fear, and so they're meshed in. So if you can get your group excited, you're also stimulating that idea of anxiety of like, ooh, why are we getting excited? I need to pay attention. I need to focus. Where's this excitement coming from? And then you have pacing. And pacing creates an intentional sense of anxiety because it's saying, wait, okay, but when do I get to go? Not yet. Okay, but can I go now? Nope, not yet. Anxiety. You don't get to go until I tell you to, but I don't know when you're going to tell me. Exactly. There's a surprise element. And so now you, by controlling pacing, now have their attention because they're sitting there like, I think I want to go. Can I go now? I'm going to test the waters. Can I go? And then they're waiting on you to give them permission. And so then you have their attention. And that's just diving into attention through just the conversation side of things. But hopefully that helps you understand how you can use these little tiny elements to drive just grabbing your students' attention without having to do much of anything other than how you phrase the conversation and how you build the pictures inside their own mind. Okay, so now let's talk about behavior. Now we're going to go through the same conversation framework, okay, the outline of the conversation, and we're just going to discuss the behavior and how the body language, how the posturing, where the students are going to be moving their body and paying attention and basically putting their energy into. So now we're going to talk about behavior. Now when it comes to behavior, I want you to separate it from attention because attention is more of a mental focus. I want you to think behavior is more of a physical, where am I placing my body? Now in our gym, what we have is dots on the floor because that drives the behavior by saying go stand on a dot, and then the behavior is, oh, I'm standing on a dot. However, I might want to create more behavior while I'm standing there. Let's say I'm trying to get students' attention, but I can't get it just using my words. Well, I can couple it with behavior. I can say, everyone stick your hands on your head, or stick your hands on your hips, or stick your finger on your nose. Or I can include gymnastic shapes and say, everyone show me a tuck stand, or show me a pike stand, or a straddle stand. Or put your arms straight out in front of you. Merely by asking them to do something while they're in place allows you the opportunity to then use attention to drive the behavior because now you get to identify who got there first. So everyone put your finger on your nose and now all of a sudden you get to be like, oh, Joey did it first. Well, a lot of people want to be first. So if you do it again and again and again, you're using the need for attention to now do the behavior. The more a student can do the behavior that you're asking means the more they're synced up to mirroring essentially your words. You're giving them words and they're showing you with their body. This is essentially the end-all be-all of gymnastics. Tell somebody to do something and see if they can do it. So all you need to do is go through a lot of cycles of this process of basically asking students to show you a position, a shape, a movement, and seeing if they can do it and then validating them for their effort. That's basically all behavior comes down to. So when you're labeling space, you could say everyone point at that blue mat. And now you're creating behavior to be attached to the attention. When you're working on skills and you say, okay, this is what the skill is, we're going to do a straight arm forward roll, you can say everyone put your arms straight out in front of you. And then you could look at everyone's straight arms, you could go and check them, you're like, all right, I think we'll be good on the straight arm forward roll. When you go through the idea of effort and tired, you could just say, everyone put your hand on your hips and breathe really heavy. Okay, that's what tired feels. That's what tired feels like. And then you can just go, okay, that's what we're going to be feeling. Everyone goes, okay, that's what I'm going to be feeling. So you can put people through a physical experience as you're grabbing their attention, and now you're layering the two together. You can then go into what are we going to measure in the reward, and we're going to go, oh, we're going to get 10 points. Hooray! Everyone put your arms there. Hooray! Or clap for ourselves because we're going to clap for our future success. And then everyone starts clapping for their future success. And then you're celebrating the success that you're going to see in the future, but they're experiencing the celebration. Then you go for the pacing. You can say, okay, you're going to all freeze. You're going to wait when I say wait, and then you're going to go when I say go. So everyone just pretend like you're walking in place. Okay, you're marching in place. Okay, and freeze, wait. Okay, and go. And they all start walking in place. Okay, freeze, and then go. And so you're just, by standing in place, you can experience the very words that we're using to capture their attention. We can now drive behavior. And so that's an element of behaviors. How are we going to get the behavior to change? Now that's using words. What we would really like is the behavior to be changed just by using objects, because then you don't even have to speak to the students. The environment is engaging the behavior. And a lot of that is set up through your curriculum and your content because it naturally drives the behavior. Okay? If we're measuring effort, and the effort we need is straight arms, and we're trying to get A+ straight arms, then that's naturally going to drive the behavior because the student wants the A+, so they're going to try to have the straight elbows. So it's coupled together inside of the content. But just so you have an understanding of how you can start leveraging behavior and how you can control the behavior to couple it with the attention to get a more engaged class that is more focused on what you want to do moving in your direction. So we talked about attention, we've talked about behavior, but care. How do I get somebody to care about anything I'm saying? Well, part of it was shown in the video on when we talked about behavior. And when we're getting these physical experiences going through our bodies and we're starting to celebrate ourselves, or we're feeling what tired feels like by breathing really heavy. By doing that, we're now associating a level of care. How much do I care? And when you get participation, you start to see care. So you have a group of students, 8 of them, you all ask them to identify where the red wedge is, and nobody pays attention. They're all like this. It's like, well, they don't really care about anything you say. So it's too hard of a task. The task is too far away from their level of care. So you need to hone it in and zoom in closer to their proximity to get them to care. Sometimes this means you literally physically have to walk over to somebody and talk really quietly just to get their attention, to show them that you care about their presence so that they will now participate in the conversation. But care is essentially the feedback loop of saying, this is what matters, and then presenting it to somebody and saying, how do you feel about that? And then they decide, oh, I think that's a great idea, or no, this is a really boring idea. And you're trying to get them to go, oh, I think this is a really great idea. So it's just the feedback loop. If you ask a person a question and they respond, you know that they care. If you ask somebody a question and they don't respond and you have to repeat their name multiple times, they don't care. So what you're trying to do in that scenario is use attention, use behavior to get the student to respond at a much faster frequency, where you just say their name once and then they care because they pay attention. Now, in the conversation outline, we know that there's effort. And the effort is what we care about. Now, we want to care about the effort at least, but we care about a reward as well, which is how we're measuring the effort. And so that reward of measurement, by saying you get 10 points, if you're just like, and you'll get 10 points, it's not exciting enough, then not a lot of people are going to gravitate towards it. So you need to get excited about what they need to be excited about. So by saying, we're going to work as hard as we possibly can, we're going to get super tired, and I don't know if anyone's going to be able to do it, but if you do, we're going to get 10 points. And that's going to be awesome because we need only 10 more points to beat the class that went before us. Okay, now I have a reason to care. So how you present the information, helping them buy into the end of the story, is a way that you're going to get someone to care. If you're not painting this picture and creating a story that others can follow along, they have no idea what to care about. If you're just like, all right, we're going to have jump to support with straight arms for a minute, go and go. Why? Why does it matter? What was I trying to invest in? And there's no feedback loop, there's no validation, there's no interest level. So you've got to have something more than just, I'm going to go through the information and I hope it works. Care is, I'm putting a sense of urgency, and if I do not see it happening, then I'm willing to stop the entire operation to interject and make sure it does happen because I care. Because the things we care about, we're willing to stop all time, essentially, to make sure that the thing we care about gets dealt with, and then we're like, press play, go. And so that's care. Right? You're watching a TV show or something, all of a sudden something's on in the oven burning, and the house is filling up with smoke. You pause the TV and you rush over to the burning oven because you care that that smoke is going to set off the fire alarms, and then you're going to have to go turn those off, and then you're going to have to deal with this burnt pan and all this other stuff because you care about the problem that's ahead of you. But you haven't experienced with that. If you've never experienced that, you kind of befuddly go through the whole process, bumbling, going, I don't really know how to solve this, and now the fire alarm's off and you got a burnt pan, and you're scratching your head like, that was the first time I've ever experienced this. But the second time you experience it, you're not going to want to go through all those experiences. So part of care is painting that picture that you can buy into. So that's what care is, and it's all about how you deliver and present, and it really comes down to you, the instructor, and what you care about and how well you can connect that to the students' attention and behavior.